She wrote him a letter every week for 2 years. He read them all the night he came home. The first letter was dated March 14th, 1885, and it said, "Dear Emmett, the snow melted today and the creek is running high. The barn roof held through the winter. I fixed the leak on the east side with tar paper and nails. The chickens survived. I did not lose a single one. I hope you are well wherever you are. I am well. I am here. Patience." The last letter was dated February 28th, 1887, and it said, "Dear Emmett, I do not know if you read these letters. I do not know if you received them. I write them because writing them is the thing I do on Sunday evenings when the house is quiet and the lamp is lit, and the week is behind me, and the week ahead has not yet begun, and the writing fills the space between behind and ahead, and the filling is necessary because the space is large and the space is U-shaped, and the only thing that fits in a U-shaped space is a letter addressed to you. I am here. I have always been here. Patience." Between the first letter and the last letter, there were 103 other letters. 105 letters total, one per week, each one written on Sunday evening, in the kitchen of a farmhouse outside of Durban, West Virginia. Although the farmhouse was not in West Virginia when this story begins, because West Virginia did not yet feel like West Virginia to Patience Aldridge when Emmett left. It felt like an absence, and the absence was the shape of the man who had walked down the road in March of 1885 without saying where he was going or when he would return. Emmett Crane was 34 years old when he left. He left because his brother had died in a mining accident in Pennsylvania, and the dying had left a widow and 3 children, and the widow and the 3 children needed help, not money, which Emmett did not have, but presence. The physical presence of a man who could work the farm the brother had left behind. And the working was necessary because the widow could not work the farm alone, and the children were too young to work it, and the farm was the only thing between the widow and destitution was the thing Emmett was trying to prevent. He told Patience he was going. He told her on a Monday morning, standing in the kitchen, with his coat on and his bag packed, and the particular expression of a man who has made a decision he knows is wrong, and who is going to carry out the decision anyway, because the decision is necessary, and necessity outranks rightness, and the outranking is the tragedy. "How long?" Patience said. "I do not know." "When will you write?" "I do not know." "Then I will write. I will write every week. I will write because writing is the thread, and the thread is the thing that keeps 2 people connected when the people are apart, and I will not let the thread break." He left. He left down the road that leads from Durban to the county seat, and from the county seat to the railroad, and from the railroad to Pennsylvania, and the leaving was the beginning of the absence, and the absence was 2 years long. The first week was the hardest. The first week was hard not because of the work. The work was familiar. The work had always been there. But because of the sounds. The sounds of a house with 1 person in it are different from the sounds of a house with 2 people in it. The coffee pot makes the same sound, but the sound carries differently when there is no one to hear it except you. The door makes the same sound, but the closing of a door when you are the only person who will open it again is a different closing. A closing that echoes instead of settling, and the echo is the loneliness. And the loneliness is the thing that fills the house when the person is gone. She did not cry. She did not cry because crying was private, and there was no one to be private from, and the absence of someone to be private from made the privacy pointless, and pointless privacy is not privacy. It is isolation, and isolation does not deserve tears. It deserves work, and work was what Patience did. The second week, she repaired the fence along the south pasture. She repaired it because the repair needed doing, and because doing it alone was the first proof that alone was possible, and the proving of possible was necessary because the alternative to possible was despair, and despair was not something Patience Aldridge permitted, the way she did not permit weeds in the garden or rust on the tools. Despair was a thing to be removed, and the removing was the work, and the work was the fence, and the fence held. Patience wrote. She wrote every Sunday evening, at the kitchen table, by the lamp, with a pen and paper, and the discipline of a woman who has made a commitment, and who will honor the commitment regardless of whether the commitment is reciprocated. Because the commitment is not to the reciprocation. The commitment is to the thread, and the thread does not require an answer. The thread requires only the writing. She was 31 years old. She had married Emmett Crane when she was 25, and they had been married 6 years when he left. And the 6 years had been good years. Good in the way that farm years are good, which means productive, and hard, and exhausting, and satisfying. The satisfaction coming not from luxury, but from the evidence of work done well. The garden harvested, the animals fed, the fences mended, the roof patched. The 100 small victories that constitute a farm year, and that add up to a life that is not glamorous, but is real. And real is the thing Patience valued, because real does not disappear, and the not disappearing was the quality she trusted. Except Emmett had disappeared. The disappearing was not malicious. The disappearing was dutiful, the duty owed to a dead brother's family. But the disappearing was complete, because Emmett did not write. He did not write because writing required sitting down, and sitting down required stopping, and stopping required acknowledging that he was away, and that the being away was costing something, and the something was patience. And acknowledging the cost of patience was the thing Emmett could not do, because acknowledging it would have broken him, and breaking was not permitted, because the widow needed him unbroken, and the children needed him unbroken, and the farm needed him unbroken. And so he remained unbroken by refusing to think about the thing that would break him, which was patience, which was home, which was the kitchen table and the lamp and the Sunday evenings. And the refusing was the coping, and the coping was the silence, and the silence lasted 2 years. Patience did not know if the letters arrived. She addressed them to Emmett Crane, care of the Crane Farm, Haverford, Pennsylvania, and she posted them on Monday mornings at the Durban post office. And the posting was an act of faith, because faith is the thing you practice when evidence is absent. And evidence was absent because the letters went out, and nothing came back. And the nothing coming back was the silence, and the silence was the test, and the test lasted 105 weeks. She ran the farm. She ran it alone, the way she ran everything, competently, stubbornly, with the particular determination of a woman who has been left, and who refuses to let the leaving be the defining fact of her life. She fixed the barn roof. She mended the fences. She tended the chickens and the garden and the cow and the 2 pigs. And the tending was the routine, and the routine was the survival, and the survival was the thread on her end, the thread that connected to the letters and through the letters to Emmett, wherever Emmett was, whether Emmett read them or did not read them, whether Emmett thought of her or did not think of her. The thread was there because Patience kept it there, 1 letter at a time. The letters themselves were not dramatic. They were not love letters in the conventional sense. They did not declare. They did not plead. They did not beg for return. They were reports. Weekly reports from a farm in Durban, West Virginia, written by a woman who understood that the most loving thing she could do was not to demand his return, but to preserve the thing he would return to. And preserving meant writing, and writing meant telling him, the farm is here, the house is here, the chickens are here, I am here. The I am here was the love, and the love was expressed not as emotion, but as fact. And facts are more durable than emotions, because emotions fluctuate, but facts endure. She wrote about the weather. She wrote about the creek and the garden and the price of feed and the condition of the road and the new minister at the church and the barn cat's kittens and the leak in the east wall and the fox that took 2 chickens in September and the first frost in October and the snow in November and the thaw in March. She wrote about the ordinary because the ordinary was the life, and the life was the thing she was keeping alive for him, 1 letter at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 season at a time, for 2 years. Letter number 23, dated August 10th, 1885. Dear Emmett, the tomatoes are coming in. I have canned 14 quarts this week, and I will can more next week. The cellar shelves are filling. The filling is satisfying in the way that all preparation for winter is satisfying, the knowledge that the work of summer will feed the body in winter, and the feeding is the purpose, and the purpose is sufficient. The porch step cracked. I replaced it with a board from the lumber pile. The board is oak, and the oak is stronger than the pine that was there before, and the stronger is better, and the better is progress. And progress is what I report to you each week, because progress is the news from a farm, and the news is good. I am here. Patience. Letter number 79, dated August 22nd, 1886. Dear Emmett, a man came to the door this week offering to buy the farm. He said a woman alone cannot run a farm this size, and he offered $200, which is less than the farm is worth, and more than he thought I would know it was worth. I told him the farm is not for sale. He asked when my husband would return. I said my husband will return when he returns, and until then, the farm is mine, and the mine is not for sale. He left. The farm is here. I am here. Patience. He came home on a Thursday in March of 1887. He came home without announcement, the way he had left without explanation, walking up the road in the evening light with his bag over his shoulder and the 2 years on his face, the 2 years visible in the lines around his eyes and the gray in his hair, and the particular weariness of a man who has been doing the right thing for the wrong reasons for too long, and the too long was written on his body, the way weather writes on a fence post, permanently. Patience was in the kitchen. She was not writing a letter because it was Thursday, not Sunday, and the letters were Sunday things, and the discipline of the schedule was part of the commitment, and the commitment did not deviate, and the not deviating was the strength. She heard the door. She heard the door open, and she heard the boots on the floor. Boots she knew. The particular sound of boots she had heard for 6 years, and had not heard for 2 years, and the hearing again was the shock of a sound returning after an absence so long that the absence had become the normal, and the sound had become the abnormal, and the abnormal was standing in her doorway. He looked at her, she looked at him. The looking was the reunion, and the reunion was silent, because the silence was appropriate. 2 years of silence, answered by a moment of silence. The silence a frame around the seeing the thing that mattered, because seeing is the proof of presence, and presence is the opposite of absence, and absence was over. I read them, Emmett said. The letters. All of them. I read them all tonight. I have been reading them all day. On the train, on the road, walking from the station. 105 letters. I read them in order. I read every word. I read about the barn roof and the chickens and the creek and the fox and the frost and the snow and the thaw. I read about the farm. I read about the life. I read about the U-shaped space. I read them all, and the reading was the 2 years I missed, compressed into a day, and the day was the most important day of my life. You did not write back. I did not write back, because writing back would have broken me, and broken was the thing I could not be, because the widow needed me, and the children needed me, and the needing left no room for the breaking. I did not write back, but I read every letter. I read them, and I kept them, and I carried them, and the carrying was the thread on my end, and the thread held because you held your end. Every Sunday evening, for 2 years, Patience stood at the kitchen table. The lamp was lit. The kitchen was warm. The Sunday evening letter was not being written because it was Thursday, but the space where the letter would have been written was there. The table, the pen, the paper, and the space was the evidence of the commitment, visible and tangible and real. The farm is here, she said. The house is here. The chickens are here. And you are here. I have always been here. Every letter said so. I am here. He set his bag on the floor. He sat at the kitchen table, in the chair he had sat in for 6 years. The chair that had been empty for 2 years, the chair that was the U-shaped space she had written about, and the sitting was the filling of the space, and the filling was the answer to 105 letters, and the answer was, I am home, and the home was kept, and the keeping was the love, and the love was 105 letters written by a woman who never stopped writing, and read by a man who never stopped reading, and the writing and the reading were the thread, and the thread did not break. In the morning, Patience made coffee. She made it the way she had made it for 2 years, in the same pot, on the same stove, with the same motions. But the making was different, because the making was for 2, and 2 changes everything. 2 changes the amount of coffee in the pot. 2 changes the number of cups on the table. Two changes the sound of the kitchen, because a kitchen with two people breathing in it has a different sound from a kitchen with one person breathing in it, and the different sound is the sound of home, and home was restored. Emmett sat at the table with the letters. He had brought them, all 105, tied with string, carried in his bag from Pennsylvania to West Virginia, the paper worn at the edges from handling, the ink faded in places from reading, the reading visible on the paper the way a path is visible in grass, worn by the feet that have walked it, and Emmett's reading had worn the letters the way his feet had worn the road, and the wearing was the evidence of love, and love evidenced by worn paper is as real as any other evidence. "I will not leave again," Emmett said. "I know." "How do you know?" "Because you brought the letters." A man who brings 105 letters home in his bag is a man who is not leaving again, because the letters are the proof that home was with him the whole time, and a man who carries home in his bag does not leave home again. The coffee was warm. The morning was cold. The farm was outside the window. The barn, the garden, the fences, the chickens, the creek. Everything she had written about for 2 years. Everything she had kept alive for 2 years. Everything that was here because she was here. And she was here because the thread held. And the thread held because she never stopped writing. Not once. Not even when the silence was the only answer. Not even when the letters went out and nothing came back. Not even then. Especially not then.